Thank you. Our next speaker is Persephone Webb.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Persephone Webb, and I am a resident of Knox County. I am here tonight as a representative for Voices for Trans Youth, which is a campaign to make Knox County schools safer and more supportive to LGBTQ students, and I'll be talking about Policy J210. You have all should have received a copy of a proposal to amend Policy J210, and this policy prohibits harassment on the basis of gender. However, as the policy is currently worded, the meaning of the term gender is open to being differently interpreted according to each teacher and administrator's own personal definition of gender. The result in practice is that Policy J210 is not enforced consistently or effectively throughout Knox County schools, and transgender and gender nonconforming students are left largely unprotected from gender-based harassment. The amendments we are proposing would clear up the ambiguity regarding the class of gender and facilitate more consistent and effective enforcement of Policy J210 district-wide. This would in turn help make Knox County schools safer for all students and improve overall school climate. We are proposing to amend Policy J210 by replacing the word gender with gender identity and gender expression. Additionally, we are proposing that Policy J210 include definitions of gender identity and gender expression so that there can be no confusion regarding the meaning of these terms. The definitions of gender identity and gender expression included in our proposal are taken from the Glisson Model District Policy on Transgender and Gender Nonconforming Students and reflect the scientifically based medical consensus on the definitions of these terms. The definitions are as follows. Gender identity. A person's deeply held sense of psychological knowledge of their own gender, which can include being female, male, another gender, or no gender. Gender identity is an innate and largely inflexible part of a person's identity. One's gender identity can be the same or different than the gender assigned at birth. The responsibility for determining an individual's gender identity rests with the individual. Children typically begin to understand their own gender identity by age 4, although the age at which individuals come to understand and express their gender identity may vary based upon each person's social and familial development. Gender expression. The manner in which a person represents or expresses gender to others, often through behavior, clothing, hairstyles, activities, voice, or mannerisms. To be clear, we are not asking for special treatment for transgender or gender nonconforming students. Policy J210 already prohibits harassment based on gender, and our proposed amendments would not add any new protected classes to the existing policy. What our proposed amendments would do, however, is clarify Policy J210 so that it can do what it is supposed to do, which is to protect all students from gender-based harassment. We are proposing to amend the policy in such a way that it cannot be misinterpreted to exclude transgender or gender nonconforming students. Additionally, also, since there were some comments about this, also sharing language from Policy G220, I would also recommend that this same language be included in Policy G220 to make Policy G220 even stronger for employees. As Beth has already said, the position of the current Department of Justice is that despite judicial precedent to the contrary, Title VII sex discrimination protections do not include gender identity or sexual orientations, as we've heard from Jeff Sessions in a recent SCOTUS amicus brief that was filed. This is reflected in that brief that was filed in the Zarda case, which they said, and I quote, "The question here is whether Title VII reaches sexual orientation. It does not." And that is a quote from the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice under the Obama administration recognized gender and sexual orientation to being covered under sex discrimination. So I urge you to not reduce the protections that are listed in the policies, because the climate of the current Department of Justice is just going to make things far worse for Knox County and less of a safe place for people to come be employed or to send their students to school. So I urge you to really consider both of these policy changes to be more clear and accurate in your wording and include definitions. Thank you.
Thank you.